In this 8th video for Chapter 3, we're going to take IQR a little bit farther and see how it relates to outliers for skewed data sets. We've already discussed outliers a little bit with our symmetric distributions. Recall that outliers are unusual values that are far from the main group of data. For symmetric data sets, we said that if a value is at 2 or more standard deviations above or below the mean, then it is classified as unusual or an outlier. In histogram, typically they're separated from the other bins or bars by a space. And we need to look at them closely to know how to treat them. If they are mistakes, if we accidentally mistyped our data entering into the computer, they might be removed or corrected. And if they are not mistakes, you might do your statistical analysis 2 times, once with and once without the outliers. That's something important to note as you proceed through your MyStatLab assignments for Chapter 3. And as we've already stated, when you're using the mean and standard deviation with a symmetric distribution, outliers are data values that are 2 standard deviations from the mean, either above or below. But we need a different way to classify outliers with skewed data because we don't have a mean and a standard deviation. When we're using the median and IQR with that skewed data, outliers are data values more than 1.5 IQRs, either below Q1 or above Q3. We will use these 2 formulas. Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR for any lower outliers, and Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR for any higher outliers. Let's look at an example where there may be lower and higher outliers. We've seen this children's heights example before in a previous video. We have a group of 14 children with the following heights. You can see, to begin with, there's a big jump, 41 to 48, then 49, 51, 53. Those are all clustered together. So 41 might be an outlier because there's a 7-inch gap here. Same thing on the upper side. We're pretty clustered, 58, 60, 62, 65, and there's this big jump to 76. So 76 might also be an upper or a higher outlier. We are going to see if there are any outliers. The first thing we need to find is the IQR. We've already done that. Recall there are 14 children. We split it. So there are 7 data pieces on the left, 7 data pieces on the right. 51 was Q1. 60 was Q3. So the IQR was 9. And so now to find my possible lower outliers to see, well, is 41 an outlier? I'm going to take Q1, which was 51, and subtract 1.5 times 9. If I do that on my calculator, type that in all at once. Gives me 37.5. This is in inches. This tells me if there's any heights 37.5 or lower, it is an outlier. Well, 41 isn't that low, so 41 is not an outlier. Now I need to test my upper end and see, well, is 76 an outlier? So for my upper side, it is Q3, which is 60, plus 1.5 times that IQR of 9. If we type that into the calculator, we get 73.5 inches. This tells me that any height that is 73.5 or above is an outlier. Since 76 is above that, we can say that 76 is an outlier. These two values that we just calculated, the 37.5 and the 73.5, these are known as fences. Anything within these values is considered typical. It's normal. It's not unusual. But anything outside of the fence, like the 76, that would be an outlier.